Welcome back, everybody. My voice is going to be louder than George's simply because we're having audio issues. We're trying to connect over different continents, and so I have to speak up for George to listen. We did get new microphones to deal with this, and they cut out all the audio. So dealing with the best that we can. Today, we're going to be interviewing George. George, could you say your name the way you pronounce it, sir, your full name?
Yeah, so my name is George Korbla Nyakpo.
Korbla Nyakpo. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I appreciate that. This is part of our series where we are having I'm sorry, one second, global summit. You just saw there on the spinning globe the picture of Western Togoland. Just a little bit of an update before we get to George. Western Togoland. This is an interview with George from Western Togoland. He's the leader of the Homeland Study Group Foundation. You can find them here on Facebook, Homeland Study Group Foundation. Very good place. Here's a little map showing the flags and what they're about. This is the location of Western Togoland. Here's a little bit of what we covered. We had a full-length interview where we went into this. This is just a little bit of a refresher for everybody. The rebellion ignored by the world. Today, we're going to be talking about the 4-year anniversary. George was going to lead a discussion of the declarations of Western Togoland with guest speakers from the United Nations, Ghana, Amnesty International, UN Geneva, and the Human Rights Council. Here's a quick video of George talking in that meeting. But today, this is the main event we're going to be talking about is this one. So, George, what's going on and why is the anniversary important? So how would you explain the anniversary and why is the anniversary significant?
So thank you so much. And thanks everyone for having me once again on your show.
Anytime.
Yeah, I salute everybody watching me from America, California. The Western Togoland issue, as we look at in our first discussion, this time around, the anniversary, the 4-year anniversary is very important to the peoples of Western Togoland, especially since it marks the 4 years since the Western Togoland has been declared independent from the Republic of Ghana. This happened in 2019, 16th November to be precise. So, like you know, every independent movement or those seeking for self-determination of their country at a point in time need to make a public statement to stand on their ground on what they actually meant in their campaign. So after several years of educating our population since 1994 up to 2016, there we had the foundation registered under the Constitution of Ghana. 2019 marked a significant milestone where we need to speak to the population, to the world, to know exactly what we are about. So the 2019 declaration marked that event that we informed the whole world that from that time and date, the Western Togoland ceases to be part of the Republic of Ghana. So we normally remember this occasion, of course, per the present predicament or situation we are facing, we usually mark it as very small, as we can. We are hoping that that day will come, that we will hold a very big anniversary for the whole world to appreciate or see. So 2019 marked that day that we have our declaration. And this declaration sent a message to the whole world, and Ghana to be precise, that that portion of the territory that was added to her Gold Coast colony by Britain against all our wish is now 4 years old that it was declared independent. So we normally hold this event to mark that particular day, and it's a very important day in the life of the Western Togoland.
Here's a few pictures for everybody at home following along. This is the first picture of the declaration in 2019 for Western Togoland. Give me 1 second to clean up a few things, and then we'll get another one up. Just to back up what George is saying. And here is another one. 1 second, we're pulling it up. So in 2019, this is what he was talking about, the Declaration of Independence. There it is. 2019, HSGF declares independence for Western Togoland. Here's another Africa news. So like George was saying, in 2019, they made this very bold statement that was out there. Now we're at the 4-year anniversary of that. George, how well has it gone? Are you guys treated with respect by the home government? Did they say, hey, we call ourselves a democracy, so therefore we recognize the right of Western Togoland to have these kind of conversations, and you have a right to express your opinion, and you have a right to have a vote? Of course, that's what they said, since they're a democracy, right, George? What?
Thank you once again. But you see, like I said in our previous discussion, that Ghana seems to be very democratic on the internet or in the outlook. But when you enter the country, then you know that actually there is nothing you can compare to when it comes to democracy around, especially when it comes to issues of our nature, issues of self-determination, and people holding different opinion as to what they thought is the case. When we had our declaration, before we mount this declaration from 2017, we have been receiving series of unlawful arrests, and all in the name of trying to silence the voice of the Western Togolanders from expressing their right to self-determination. Anytime they launch their arrest, they will go and quote some laws that are even not in their constitution. And will go to court. The judge will not find any reason to even sit on the case. But because it is the government that is having the power, they have to drag this case in court for several months. At the end of the day, the government will have no say, and the court will let us go. This happened from 2017 up to 2019. And before we had this declaration, something significant happened in our country. A budget was prepared for every portion of the regions in Ghana. Before this budget, our people demonstrated that our economic conditions are not anything to write home about. Our roads are not good, especially on the issues of the road. Our people demonstrated a lot. 2 weeks to the reading of the budget in the parliament. After the reading of the budget in the parliament, all our regions were omitted from budgetary allocations. And when the people cried, the senior minister came to the public through the media that they have forgotten about the region. That is why they did not include them in the budget. So we said, no, if we are all thought about in this country, that we are all part of the country Ghana, there's no way you can prepare budget and omit us. And when we cry, then you say you have forgotten about us. So it tells us that we are not actually part of the country, as they keep saying that we are Togolese, we are plebiscite ones, and we are not Ghanaians. So we had the declaration, the Western Togoland Consultative Assembly. We have to quickly organize ourselves on that particular day and made a speech. After we made our speech, the government did not take it kindly at all. As you know, they did not take it kindly. They went on press releases here and there claiming they've not relinquished any portion of the territory to anyone. They are going to deal with us. And immediately we also wrote another press rejoinder. Now we let them know that we did not declare any part of Ghana independent. Many people don't understand this. Before Ghana, there was Gold Coast.
Right.
And if you read the article that established Ghana, the country, the territory that Britain granted independence, Britain was very clear that she had granted independence to all the territories in the Gold Coast, not the Togoland. And it is after Ghana, Gold Coast was granted independence as Ghana, that is where Ghana and Togoland form a union per the 1956 plebiscite. And even till today, we did not see any institution representing Western Togoland in that union. If two people are going to sign a document to be in a relationship, they need to have a discussion to describe the way and manner that relationship will go. So our people have voted to be in union with Ghana, and that was the decision that the United Nations took. So Gold Coast now was granted independence separately. Britain stated all the territories, the geographical borders of Gold Coast as independent before we are in a union. So
Right.
if we decided to declare ourselves independent from Gold Coast, you cannot come and say that we have declared a part of Ghana independent.
Okay, got it.
So this is how Ghana took the whole case. And we have been asking them, if you said we have violated any article in your constitution, give us the article. The Ghana's Independence Act did not mention Western Togoland being independent together with the Gold Coast. They say we are in a union. So if we are in a union, at any point in time, if things are not going on well with the other party in the union, the person have the right to question the decision of the union. So anytime we ask about the union between Ghana and Western Togoland, then the government will flare up. Anytime we ask, okay, in 1956, we are supposed to be in union. Where is the union document? The government will start chasing us with the military. You get the point? So we realize that the government of Ghana, whether they know their history or they don't know their history, they just want to keep our country being part of them for God knows how long, and without even extending any form of development to our side. And we have the right as people to live in our country and determine the nature and the future of our country. And this is not what Ghana is interested in.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's a serious situation. And if you think about it, you will ask yourself, why is it that a country full of intellectuals will not understand this simple thing? So we have declared ourselves from them, and they are not taking it kindly. But that is what it is.
that is that's very detailed. This is the map that George was talking about. You can see that it's broken up. That was the original Gold Coast area down to the south, and then Togoland there, and then it became Western Togoland. This was a document so that you know that George has been treated unfairly while pursuing human rights issues. We also want to point out, you know, when George talks about Ghana, you got to realize that to the rest of the world, they don't know what George is talking about at all, basically. So here's the USA Aid Ghana Democracy fact sheet. That is Kamala Harris, who almost was president, and First Gentleman Doug Emhoff. I'm assuming that with Representatives Ghana in their traditional garb. Ghana is a stable democratic country with a history of successful political transitions, a free press, an active civil society, and an independent judiciary. Not alone. Ghana, a beacon of democracy. Ghana's election will be a beacon for coup-filled West Africa. And finally, amid a region of strife with coups and instability, Ghana is a democratic bulwark. Washington, meaning the capital of America, should deepen cooperation with Ghana to promote their awesome example of democracy as a governance model. That's from the United States of Peace. So, George, my understanding of democracy is that you don't get to not let people vote, arrest their leaders if they want to talk about something, imprison people if they want to have a free vote, and deny funding to the region when everybody pays taxes. But apparently I'm out of line with the United States government, multiple officials, and the United States Institute of Peace. They say Ghana's a beautiful democracy. What's the truth, George? What you're describing doesn't sound like a democratic country, and yet we see other people saying Ghana's democratic. Who's right? Why is there a discrepancy?
Yeah, so the United States of America and her aid organizations in Ghana knows best what they mean when they say Ghana is democracy. But when it comes to issues of self-determination, Ghana is not democracy. They themselves are aware that in 2020, when people decided to demonstrate to show that they want their country to be free, the United States government have labeled the Western Togoland portion of the region as not safe for her citizens to travel to. The UK government, the UK representation in Ghana did the same thing. So trying to paint a picture of something that is not the case to the international community is, I don't know if there's any term for that, but it's telling international lie about the situation. Because if Ghana is truly a democracy, why is it that when the Western Togoland case was launched at the United Nations Human Rights Council, the United Nations Human Rights Council is not an organization formed by the Western Togolanders. We do not have a representation at the United Nations Human Rights Council. We do not have any country being part of the United Nations doing peer review year in and year out.
Right.
But in the past years of Ghana's peer review, Ghana was reviewed and asked or questioned about how they are dealing with the human rights issues, especially the Western Togoland situation. In the reports filed by the Human Rights Council against Ghana, if Ghana is truly a democracy, when the case of Western Togolanders were launched at their court, and Ghana was invited to respond to the charges, not even a cough came from the government of Ghana to the council for a whole year until the decision had to be passed against the state. As we speak, just 3 days ago, the office of the UNPO have to make another follow-up to the working group on arbitrary detention that, hey, 2 years ago, the decision that you made against the Republic of Ghana is still pending. The government did not implement them. The people are still in court and they are still being tried. Some are being jailed. I myself, whose case is the focal point, even though I'm cooperating with the law, I am attending court all the time ever since I was granted bail. I am still being pursued here and there to be arrested. So if Ghana is a democracy, why is it that you cannot allow people to speak on issues of their country, of their history? We all know how Ghana was put together by Britain. So if all of us were put together by an entity that we have no relationship with, and today I feel that you are not treating me well, why are you not allowing me to speak my voice? Why are you sitting on my voice? Then the United Nations, the United States will come and be projecting and painting a picture of the country as beautiful for people to get. Maybe the United Nations has, the United States have an interest in Ghana that is, so you need to what? Make paint such a picture of the country for its interest. It is the one who is selling something that try to publish it, try to advertise it to be more appealing. So that is all that I can say on all this thing that the United Nations aid is talking about. But they know, there are organizations in the country here know very well the image that Ghana is having when it comes to implementation of issues of democracy and human rights. They know. So I don't know why they are painting that picture to the international community. You can contact various independent people, civil society organizations. Even in Ghana here, we have the National Peace Council. If you read their report, the National Peace Council 2022 report is saying something different from what United Nations aid, United States aid is saying. The report, during the discussion about Western Togoland, the Peace Council went around interviewing people or having discussion about all the issues. And it is pointed out there that ever since we have been suffering from citizenship alienation in this country, there are people that are in Ghana here, even coming to their own country, we are in our own homes, various communities. When you are from Western Togoland, especially you are an everyman, and you are going to even rent room, they will tell you because you are an everyman, they are not going to rent a room to you. They have done this to the extent that they now have to make a banner and fly it around that they are not renting this house to the Ewe. So if we are in a country and we are constantly being treated this way, in 2020, a whole community that is full of Ewes, the authority of the Bui down went and bent the whole community down. And the reason they bent the whole community down is that the people are Voltarians. They are not Ghanaians, so they need to leave the place to their country. That same year, the assembly member of the area have to come out in a press and be addressing the public about how the military of Ghana was released on them, preventing them from acquiring a national ID card. The excuse is that they are Evers, they don't have to acquire a national ID card because they are not Ghanaians. So if we are, they say we are all part of this country and we are being treated this way, why are you now preventing us from having our own country? If you don't want us, why don't you let us go? And when we speak, you arrest us, keep us in jail severally. Some, those that you are even killing, you don't allow their family members to come for their bodies. And this is what is there. And United States of America will be telling us that Ghana is a beautiful democracy. It's best known to them.
We're not going to get all the way into it today. This was an update, but I will say for everybody, here's the episode. Let me pull the banner off. George, I'm not even going to try, bro. I'm going to listen to the way that you said it and practice before I pronounce your full name again. But there's the interview on my channel. You can see that we did a 2-hour deep dive into all of the atrocities that happened to Western Togoland, how the people are treated unfairly, how they have a right to protest, to meet, to assemble, to speak their voice, to call for a vote. These are basic democratic things, and they have been arrested and abused instead. So you can watch that episode on the channel. I'll just say briefly, the rebellion ignored by the world. George himself was locked up right there. Human Rights Council, arbitrary detention by the World Human Rights Council against the guy you're seeing on the screen right now. So that's what they do. Then they arrested everybody because they wanted to make a declaration. And then they went out and started seeking down the leaders and putting them into prison because they said, we want to have a discussion. And yet, when you look, Ghana's a beacon of democracy. Beacons of democracy don't do this. Just for the record, I'm being a little bit coy here, George. I think you get it. Trying to lighten it up. But beacons of democracy don't do that. And here's the big problem. There's a thing called the United Nations. Basically, every country on earth is part of it. Not exactly, but basically. In that, it says Article 1, meaning the first article. Chapter 2, meaning Section 2, the very first article when you sign this. You will respect people's rights to self-determination, period. Principle of equal rights and determination of peoples, period. Now, let me show you one more thing. Here's the countries that are part of the UN. If they're in blue, they're part of the United Nations. See that red box? That's Ghana. That means Ghana is a member state of the United Nations. You don't just join the United Nations. It's not a golf club. It's not a video membership. It's not an ice cream rebate card. It's a treaty. Treaties are law. So Ghana signed this treaty to become part of this group, which means now it has to abide by this law. Yeah. And what George just told you is they're not doing that. So they are breaking the law that their country signed a treaty to, which means Ghana is acting illegally under international law. But you never know that from the media, who says that, you know, these are good guys. Look, there's Kamala. She's smiling. How can these people be bad? Beacon of democracy. What you don't hear, they arrest leaders for just talking about things. They arrest people like George for having peaceful discussions. And then they imprison people. And he said sometimes people die. And some they don't get to see their families. So that's the reality of Ghana. It's just not getting out. They signed this law. They're not living up to it. So they're at fault. That's the hard truth. Am I saying anything wrong here, George?
You are correct. You are correct. You are correct. So that is the country that they are saying that they are democracy and they are doing everything right. Now, the one interesting thing is that I don't know for America if someone at the age of 85 could be arrested because the person is speaking about the history of the United States of America. I don't know.
George is talking about this man. He was the original head leader. As you can tell, he's an elderly man. He's
85 years old.
At the time, he was in great health, right? Yeah, he's not a young, strapping, strong man. He's an old man. People are helping him walk. Clearly, he's hunched over. He's working with a cane. He's got a smile on his face, but he's not doing well. And they arrested this guy because he wanted to have a conversation about Western Togoland. I mean, they arrested Grandpa, who's struggling to walk across the street, and treated him like an arch criminal of the country because he wanted to say there's a history of our people acting differently and being different. Wow. That's I don't know how you justify that. You know, you're like, oh, we need to be tough. Let's rough up this grandpa who can barely cross the street on his own. That'll show everybody that we're a real tough government. That doesn't project strength to me. You know what that projects? Fear. You're so scared of these people having a talk. You need to punish an 85-year-old geriatric man who's struggling to survive every day. That says desperation to me and fear. Sorry, George, I get more emotionally worked up the more that I hear about your story. It's just really unfair. Just very, very, very unfair. And it's not a matter of opinion. What they're doing is illegal. They signed a charter under the UN. That's called international law. It's the basis for all law for all countries. They did it. That's them. And they're violating it. So We're winding down. George, what did you want to say that we haven't captured, sir? What is a message you want to get to the people outside of Ghana to understand the situation? What thoughts do you need to leave with people, sir?
Yeah, so what I want everybody to understand is that the international law on self-determination did not state that only some people are entitled to that right. It is for everyone to exercise that right. And we in Western Togoland, we are not forcing anybody to accept to be part of Western Togoland. All that we are saying is that our right to self-determination need to be respected. We are not ready to even do anything violence in the name of securing Western Togoland because we did not join or being added to Ghana through any act of violence. At least on record, we had a plebiscite in 1956. And there are two alternatives to that plebiscite. Either to be in union with the independent state of Gold Coast, which will be Ghana or any name after independence, or remain a country on our own. Now, even at the time that we go into that plebiscite, Britain was unfair to us because Togoland under British administration had no leadership. We did not have a government representing us. We only have individuals, one on their own accord, trying to make sure the country is independent. In as much as everyone agrees to that, Britain did not live up to the expectation of the trusteeship agreement by giving Togoland their own separate government. This was a concern raised by Terazi, one of the missionaries of the Togoland, that before the people goes into plebiscite, they need their own separate government. So we don't have our own government. So the question is who represented us in the plebiscite? Who makes sure that everything happened fairly? Because at the time, Britain is a superpower of the United Nations. She got all the powers behind her. So if we do not have any administrative structure representing us, anything can happen in the plebiscite. And everything has also actually happened in the plebiscite, taking our rights from us. Now, if that thing is done and you are supposed to make us be in a union, and at the end of the day, we only go into the plebiscite, we voted yes to be in the union, and you did not ratify the union, don't we have the right to demand for a document that tells us how and or the manner in which we are in this particular union? I think we have the right. The Constitution of Ghana should have detailed or tell the whole world how Togoland and Ghana are living together. Ghana is not the only country that is of two different territories coming together. At least we saw the Czechoslovakia era, the Trinidad and Tobago area, before many other two different countries, even Tanzania, when the Zanzibar and the Tanganyika people came together to form the United Tanzania. So why is it that in our case, we don't even have any day to remember a Union Day in Ghana before we even celebrate an Independence Day? So these are the unfair treatments that we have been asking about peacefully, and our peaceful demand is being responded to in a violent manner. And when they act violence towards us, they don't expect us to defend ourselves. And the moment we make a speech in defending ourselves, we are declared as terrorists, we are declared as secessionists, people who want to break the country. This is not right. And I want everybody watching us, all the international organizations that are connected to Ghana, especially if anybody is watching us from the United States Department on Aid to Ghana, they should go back to their drawing board and do the right thing, because the democracy they are practicing in America is not the same thing in Ghana. All this thing they are publishing is an insult to us. It's an insult to the United Nations Charter as well. So we have the right as people to decide our future. And there's nowhere in this world that if people do not feel belonging to a certain state, they should be gagged, they should be prevented from speaking contrary to that. The Universal Declaration on Human Rights states that you cannot force people to be part of your country. And Ghana is a treaty member of the Universal Declaration on Human Rights. The International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, Ghana is a signatory, is a covenant member of that particular covenant. That states that you cannot force people against their political will. So we have the right to speak about our history. In Ghana, the moment you mention Western Togoland, you are supposed to be arrested. These are two different countries that came together to be in a union. So you are telling me that the moment we are in a union, I have no right to talk about my country, but you have the right to mention your part of the country in the union. That cannot be right. Okay. That can never be right. So all that I will say is that the international community should do the right thing. All those who are watching us, who think that there are some group of people, miscreants in Ghana, who want to break the country, they should go back to the history of how the country was put together so that they can accord to us our right to self-determination. We are also humans and we deserve that right. Thank you.
Thank you, George. I'm just going to show what George was talking about real quick. We were talking about the UN Charter. I want us to show this. We're winding down, but I do want to. I want you guys to see what he's talking about. So besides the UN Charter, Ghana also ratified this document. It's a ratification of international human rights treaties. There they are, ratifying multiple treaties, saying they're going to respect human rights. And they already signed a treaty said they'll respect self-determination, but instead, this is what they do. So the image of Ghana does not match what's going on in Ghana. Western Togoland is a premier example of that. And the reason that it's happening is the reason why we're having this summit. This information is not getting out. This country is able to stifle the press, make sure information doesn't get out, glad hand and keep relationships with America and other big countries. So they probably don't really want to hear any problems because it might hurt their relationship with Ghana. So we're not getting the truth about how democracy is treated in that land. And that's why we have to have the summit. George, any final comments? We'll leave it there.
So the final comment is I wish everybody well. And I always call on people to come to the Western Togoland issue. Let's talk about it together. Those who have the opportunity to sponsor cases of self-determination, they are welcome to the Western Togoland so that we can also have our voice to be out there. Right now, we do not have a voice. As you can see, Ghana have all the machineries to shut our voice down. And this is not right. This is never right, because one thing that we believe is that if you are together and you are shutting one person's voice down, the day the person explodes, everybody will now see whatever is there. And the unfortunate thing is that it is that time that people begin to blame the other party, that they are violence, they are this. But the time that, as Ghana is doing now, trying to suppress our voice, if we also want to find every means possible to make sure the world hear about our voice. Many countries are around doing the same thing that we are doing. Some are going violent, as you can see. Some don't want to entertain any form of trying to silence them and all those things. So they are recruiting all manner of people and we can see the result that is going on. But we don't want to get to that stage. And we pray that Ghana do not also push us to that stage, because every human being has a capability of doing anything. It's just that at times some resort to self-control as we are doing. So my last word is everybody should do whatever they can do to support the Western Togoland Cup.
We'll leave it there. I will point out there was a group called the Irish Republican Army, and the Irish Republican Army was a violent organization. They only started because the Irish were doing peaceful protests, and then they did a protest in the city of Derry, and the British military gunned down 100 protesters in broad daylight. And this is in the 1970s. This isn't 1800s. This is the 1970s. Irish people were peacefully protesting. Brits went out there, pop, 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 dead. And then all the Brits who did that got a commendation from the Queen for their acts. And on that day, the IRA was born. I'm not suggesting violence is the way to do things. Of course not. It's wrong. What I'm pointing out is that when you hear about Ireland, people go, oh, well, the IRA and they're violent. Yeah. But how did they get there? Because England sent troops to literally slaughter around 100 people in broad daylight who were peacefully protesting with no weapons. And then the Queen of England and the British people saluted them for doing so. And then the Irish were like, okay, well, if we have peaceful protests at midday and you can just gun us down, and America says nothing, and the UN says nothing, and NATO says nothing, and England says nothing, what choice did you give us? Now, of course, bad option, don't do it, but that's a fact. That's how they started. That's a fact. They started peacefully. England forced them into violence. They shouldn't have done it, but that's a fact. That's how that got started. It's called Bloody Sunday, City of Derry, Ireland. That's how the IRA was born. England acted undemocratically against people who were practicing democracy. It murdered them.
And I believe they learned from that. And I believe that England learned from that. Because right now you can see the Scotland independence movement is not being treated as previously.
True.
Yeah. So, and Ghana needs to understand this, that your former colonial master, the one who established Gold Coast, the one who found Gold Coast for you, is having Scotland people exercising their right to self-determination. They are not being arrested. They are not being shut down. So you, a citizen, or let me say one who was once colonized, you should learn from your colonial master and respect the views of your fellow countrymen. If your colonial master is doing this, why are you doing something else?
We'll leave it there. I just want to show everybody this so that you're aware. I would recommend everybody go out and rent this movie here. It's called Bloody Sunday. There's the picture. Paul Green film won the Sundance thing. They cover this story. This is about Bloody Sunday. It's about, that's the guy. He's an actor portraying the peaceful Irish leader, and he held the peaceful protest that got a lot of people killed. And then at the end of the movie, he goes, well, you know where it's going now. And again, I'm not recommending that, but if you want to see how this went in history, well documented, this is the movie. They walk you through. The Brits did not care, and they thought that murdering civilians in broad daylight with no weapons who were protesting would be a good idea. They knew exactly what they were doing. They fully intended to do it, and they did it. And the movie documents it in detail. And so this is a little piece of history that I think a lot of people don't know. Watch the movie. It's fact. Yeah. You can learn how this happens. You don't let people have democracy. What the hell did you think they were going to do? Again, we're not endorsing it. We'll leave it there. George, thanks for coming out. I'll send you a copy of the video in a few hours. Thank you, brother, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right. I'll see you soon, man.